homeless, anti-vaxxers, bottled water, 3 elements, one world, one battle, one crisis, disaster begins. After a prolonged fight, humanity has chosen to elevate bottled water. Why? What did the anti-vaxxers do? Where did the homeless come from? What happens in the future is something you will not believe, far beyond one can imagine. Where is humanity's hope? What if everything had continued to go the way things did? The traditions, customs, normality, no drastic change. What power does bottled water hold? Once considered something ordinary people with dispensable income bought wastefully, polluting the planet and making the rich richer, now sought by anti-vaxxers. Critical thinking joins the game, now on YouTube, world infected and swayed by media. But how did it all begin? There's only one way to find out. Starring homeless, anti-vaxxers, and bottled water. This summer, October 30th, in theaters, Major Assignment. First, allow me to explain the background to the wild card. Bottled water has a few kinds that include tap, purified, distilled, spring, and mineral. Out of all these, purified water is paradoxically the least favorable, as it is basically tap water that was filtered. Out of all these, spring water is the most natural. Although mineral water has more and a minimum guaranteed amount of mineral per volume, only the best parts of the water underground are force extracted through borehole or other means of extraction. The water may not flow to the ground surface level, so it's selected, not truly natural. Compared to this, spring water naturally goes up to the surface of the ground, and it can contain any amount of mineral, thus more natural by the way it's sourced. In some parts of the world, to be called mineral water, it must contain 250 parts per million, or in Australia, 250 milligrams per liter of minerals. So this is how this crisis can occur. Consumers purchase bottled water, especially spring water. More people buy, so the sale of bottled water significantly increases. This is when the fallacy of this comes into play. These people buy them because of the belief that people should be drinking bottled water, especially spring water, to detox their body, and it's simply better for their bodies because it's all natural. This is appeal to nature fallacy. In this case, this kind of people turn out to be anti-vaxxers. Like extremists like vegans, they start to stir up anti-vaccine movements and protests because they say synthetic substances shouldn't go into our bodies. The natural methods of remedy are better, superior. Then, after the voicings, consumers and patients take less and less vaccines, ultimately to a point where the majority of people around the world don't take them. Then, because there is no longer need to research, develop, and manufacture vaccines, scientists at pharmaceutical companies lose their jobs. They eventually become homeless because they can't find jobs at other pharmaceutical companies, because this movement became global. This is how the world ends up with many homeless. This pattern of this causal loop diagram resembles the archetype escalation. Here is a figure 8. There are 2 balancing loops inside. With anti-vaccine movement in the center, as the number of it increases, eventually in the long run, that decreases. Looking at the outer loops, they are also balancing loops. In fact, there are no reinforcing loops. Single-sidedly, the anti-vaxxers believe only they win. Because they fiercely compete and try to dominate, in the end, they win at the expense of scientists by increasing layoffs. After careful thoughts and considerations, this is the closest plausible case scenario that I could come up with. It is definitely not a certain event that's going to happen, but definitely can happen. Not to say that the majority of homeless are former scientists, but every city and country has scientists. The reason why the extremists behaved or caused anti-vaccine campaign is that they are fallacious in appeal to nature. Appeal to nature is believing anything that's natural or related to nature is justifiable and valid. You can see their standing by drawing a Venn diagram as such. The first premise says no vaccine is natural. So all covered here. Premise 2 says all cure is natural. So that's the space here. And their conclusion says, therefore, vaccines are not natural. So the leftover vaccines belong here, and because they're not part of natural, the opposite of natural is unnatural. You can see that their argument is that no vaccine is natural. Due to their fallacy, they can't use vaccines. In their view and in this Venn diagram, it's a valid deductive argument. However, in real life, this is an inductive argument, not even cogent. Other possibilities people's anti-vaccine reasons include belief that vaccines have side effects, religious reasons, and some crazy nutcases believe that by vaccinating their dogs they develop autism. Overall, the three elements in real life, they don't have factual connections. What are depicted and explained here are the most plausible events. It has the effect of slippery slope that something basic and humble like bottled water causes protest and riots, which in turn cause unemployment and subsequently causing homelessness, and to make it even worse, this happens worldwide. Realistically, we have homeless people around the world, but it definitely hasn't reached the crisis level. It is possible that some of them were scientists at pharmaceutical companies making vaccines, but the chances are low. And anything to do with bottled water starting anti-vaccine movements, chances low. The probability of these three elements coming together as a combination is low, but still remains plausible. Maybe one day, if we have enough crazy people. Not that we don't have enough of them.